to finalize it so they could finally get on with their lives.
On the very morning George is due to sign the agreement, he slips out to buy some food.
He was hurrying back to Mary Louise's apartment when a gunman came up behind him and blasted him with 3 gunshots in the back.
George fell to the ground. The doorman ran over to him. The doorman knew who it was, and the doorman called up to Mary Louise. Mary Louise came down and was in total shock.
George is rushed to the hospital.
George lasted 7 hours. They did several surgeries. He went into a coma.
Around 4 o'clock, they declared that George had died.
Who shot George? Police have their theories. You don't make millions in Manhattan being nice to people.
It appeared like it was a gangland slang.
George had business enemies. It could have been some bad dealings in Puerto Rico. It could have been the Russian mafia.
George Kogan never saw it coming.
It was a slick killing. Gunman comes up unprovoked out of nowhere, shoots him 3 times in the back and disappears.
It's broad daylight on a busy sidewalk on New York's Upper East Side. A brazen hit. And the shooter? He evaporates into the crowd.
George was shot from behind. The doorman didn't see anything. The people on the block did not have the greatest opportunity to observe.
Manhattan back then was nothing like the tourist-friendly streets of today. You walked fast and kept your wallet close. Mugging was a daily risk. In 1990, New York held the grim title of murder capital of the United States. For now, George Kogan's killers can breathe easy. With few leads, the case goes to the bottom of a very big pile.
The initial detectives and the detective squad couldn't dedicate an entire team to this on a full-time basis.
But a few years later, a hard-boiled New York police detective is brought in to reopen the case. Joe Buffalino.
Initially, it was a very tough case to figure out. We started to look at some of the old witnesses. We re-interviewed the girlfriend of George Kogan, Mary Louise. We spoke to relatives of Mr. Kogan. To Puerto Rico, we spoke to his son.
Investigators focus on one big question. Who ponied up the cash to get George rubbed out?
He had 2 different theories. One was the theory of the backdrop of this horrible divorce. The other theory was that George had a lot of businesses going and he owed money to people.
And what about George's alleged connections with the Russian mob? Those guys don't play nice.
We looked into the possibility of George Kogan having a bad business deal. And we realized that there were some deals that didn't go according to plan.
There were interviews of people to whom he owed money or who owed money to him. He had sold a hotel and casino to people, and they were defaulting on the payment.
But someone else is on the detective's radar. George's wife, Barbara. On the day of the shooting, she was acting very strangely.
Barbara was incoherent, and it was decided that Barbara should have her hair done. So the hairdresser came in and did Barbara's hair for $500.
As desperate calls come in from her estranged husband's deathbed, Barbara doesn't budge.
Barbara stayed in her Fifth Avenue apartment and did not go to the hospital. That was a bad sign. That was the first red flag.
Do you want to get that? No. That's legal.
Husband was in the hospital, and she continued to have her hair done. Everyone thought that was a little odd. It wasn't a typical loving relationship.
That heartless $500 haircut sends up the red flag. Barbara's fascination with life insurance gets it waving.
The insurance company had gotten calls from Barbara Kogan a week before the homicide asking
So the policy is still in effect.
if policies on George Kogan's life were still in effect and who was the beneficiary.
And Barbara Kogan is the sole beneficiary. Kogan.
There were actually 3 policies, totaled $4.3 million. During the divorce, she couldn't afford anything else, but she actually